In 2020, my friend Aden ran a podcast called Game Club. Each episode of the podcast was an entirely different guest talking about an entirely different game, and it was just a really fun, collaborative project where they talked about anything from Ghost of Tsushima, which I was there for, one of my favorite games of that year, and even the T-Rex game on the Google Chrome browser. And in a final big hurrah for the ending of the podcast, me and Aden talked about our top 50 games. Unfortunately, due to catastrophic events, the podcast episode never came out, but I have recovered my part of the call, and so this is a very cut down version of that finale with just me talking about some of my favorite games of all time. So I think obviously you gotta start off with Solitaire, right? Classic game. One thing that I'm really sad didn't make the top 10 is the Ori games. Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. They make number 12 and 15 for me. Also have Portal 2, classic. There's a world where this could have been a top 10, but there are too many good games out there. Dig Dug. Gotta hand it to Dig Dug. It's probably like one of the first games I ever played, because Link's Awakening was the first game I owned on Game Boy. Top 25. You got your classics like Dark Souls Remastered. Love me some Dark Souls. I got Twilight Princess is my favorite Zelda game. That didn't make the top 10, but it's number 17. Amnesia the Dark Descent is like a 11-year-old horror game that still be kind of spooking me a little bit. I've spent hours in Clone Hero. I got that on here. I wanted to put Animal Crossing higher, but it's number 21. Undertale, I had to put Undertale on here. This list will be outdated in 2 years. So, number 10, Earthbound on the Super Nintendo. This game I played for the first time in senior year of high school, and it was my second RPG ever. I kind of wished I'd played other RPGs before this one and another one that we'll talk about, because I feel like the whole genre's been ruined for me. I've played the 2 best ones in the genre. The setting is really cool. It's just about some homies in like North America. A bunch of wild and shit happens, and the music bops. It's entirely a vibe. Super simple to get in. It's fairly linear, but not like super linear to the point where you're having your hand held or anything. The story is wonderful, just epic. And one day I'll play Mother 3 if, Nintendo ever thinks about the game again. Number 9, Contra on the NES. It's a run and gun shooter. I don't know what it was about it. It's one of the first NES games that I ever played. It was one of the first Let's Plays I ever did back in the day. The game's hard, and it's infamously difficult, but because you've got that Konami code, which gives you 30 extra lives, it was just a really fun gameplay loop. I was able to master certain stages, and since then, every once in a while, I'll hop on and see how far I can get without dying, or without getting a game over or something. A lot of the NES games, like Mega Man 2. Mega Man 2 is on my top 50. That game is fun to play, but there's parts of it where you're like, oh yeah, this is an NES game. This is hard to get through this part because of the limitations of the hardware. And I was thinking of Battletoads and Castlevania, another 2 games that are on my top 50. Those games similarly have issues where it's hard to get through a certain section because the sprites will flicker or the level design wasn't made right. But Contra, it feels like a modern game in a lot of sense because everything just works. Just works really well. I have the classic indie title roguelite, The Binding of Isaac. I have to this day put in 908 hours in the game on Steam. There's probably a good 40 hours on the Switch. Game's good. The Binding of Isaac has had multiple expansion packs, the most recent being Repentance. And each and every time something new has been added to this game, it just, the amount of content just continues to get more insurmountable. I've not 100%ed this. I'm not even close now. With the most recent update, they literally doubled the entire game. There's more enemies and bosses and characters and all kinds of things that you can master at it. But at its core, The Binding of Isaac is a fun 30-minute to an hour run a day. You can play 1 run a day. It's going to be completely randomized. You get to pick one of 18 different characters. Actually, I think it's 34 characters now. It's a lot. And each of the, especially the newer characters, add an entirely new gameplay mechanic that you either have to think about or be on your toes or whatever. The soundtrack be bumping, the gameplay is fun. There's so many different items that makes every single run completely different. I wish it wasn't as difficult as it is now, because they did add a lot of newer things that made it more difficult with the most recent DLC, but it's still fun. I can't deny how much time I've not only spent playing it, but watching my man Northern Lion play it on YouTube. Spent hours. Chrono Trigger. This was the first RPG I ever played. It blew my mind. Not only do I love the concept to begin with, where you can time travel throughout these different eras. The story's all wacky and everything. But it's got like some of the most compelling characters in video games for me. There's like a roster of like 9 different characters, and you can split them out and have 3 people in your party at all times. And there's like a really cool gameplay mechanic where, depending on who is in your party, you can do these things called dual techs or triple techs, which combines powers from each person. There's all these different combinations you can throw out throughout the game, which is really cool. The soundtrack is amazing. Yeah, so Hollow Knight is another indie game. A lot of people will say it's 2D Dark Souls, which I get because of the atmosphere and the combat. And it's just really, really fun to play. Like, the story makes no damn sense. Like, I don't understand it, but it's cool. You're this little dude and you're in this world of bugs. And some of the bugs you gotta fight. Some of them are best friends. Some of them are these little grubs that you find in hidden little containers. You gotta save them and they're cute. The soundtrack is, I mean, you'll notice something about my top 10. All of these got a pretty banging soundtrack for the most part. But if you like Metroidvanias, yeah. It may not have revolutionized anything, but I think it does everything the best. My number 5 is Katamari Damacy. I bought a PS3 for the first time in college. Or no, PS2, my bad. And like, you know, there's a lot of classic PS2 games that I could have played first. Kingdom Hearts, Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, ton of games. My ass saw this weird little alien dude rolling up a bunch of Earth objects and just making a gigantic ball out of them. And I was like, that's the game I'm going to play first. It's like one of the weirdest games I've ever played, and I love it for that. I remember in middle school, I played like some kind of flash game where you start off as this little dot and you're like eating things like microbes, and then you get into like bacteria, and eventually you're eating cats and dogs, you know, trying to get as big as possible. And that's essentially what this game is. You start off really small, picking up like dominoes and thumbtacks, and then eventually, like last level, you're picking up countries and you're getting it all into this gigantic ass ball, and it's so fun. It's just, it only takes like 3 hours to beat. Very short game, but one of the most fun games. They have sequels, and I've played one of them. I think it's Katamari Forever on the PS3. Hopefully they'll remaster those at one point. It's so wacky and weird, and I love it. It's so good. My number 4. 2007, Steam was starting to be a thing. Good old Valve were making some games, and they came out with a little game called Portal. Industry-defining game. Portal was like some college intern's project or something like that. They turned it into a full game, and it is one of my favorite games. Number 4. I have Portal 2 on here too, number 11, so it didn't quite make the top 10. And I love Portal 2 a lot more in certain aspects, but Portal 1 is, not only is it such a tightly built game, every single puzzle, every single room feels like there's a purpose to it, but the more you play, the better you get at it. So I didn't play Portal until 2014, 2015. It was my first Steam game though. Like, I got Steam, and I was looking at the games, and I'd known about Portal since it came out because I'd see like commercials. I was like, this looks cool. So I finally played it in college, and then I played Portal 2. I loved it, and I kind of felt some closure. I was like, that's good. I don't need a third game. I kind of want a third game now, though. It's been a minute. I feel like they could come up with some more interesting ideas. So my number 3 is a little game called the Stanley Parable. So when a game is only like 3 hours or less, and it also be breaking boundaries. This game came out in 2011. It's literally like a Half-Life mod, and the developers Davey Reedon and William Pugh, I only know about Davey because he also did the beginner's guide, which is number 13 for me. You play as this guy named Stanley. He's at work one day and everybody in his office just completely disappeared. And you're like, what's going on? There's this narrator that like tells you where to go, and you can either listen to him and follow every single thing that the narrator tells you to do and you'll get an ending, or you can completely disregard everything the man says and just do whatever you want and get a bunch of other endings. There are funny endings, there are like heartbreaking sad endings, there's some trippy meta It kind of created a genre of games. The walking sim really wasn't considered until Stanley Parable. And there's a couple of others before it. I think Dear Esther came out before it. Yeah, a lot of people were like, Stanley Parable's not even a game. It's an interactive movie. That makes it even cooler to me. Because again, it's breaking some boundaries. For a game that you can literally beat in 5 minutes. Which is insane. And get everything in an hour and a half. It's a neat little experiment to me. Mario Odyssey, that type of game that like, I remember the first trailer that came out. And I was like, oh, this looks neat. And then Mario threw his hat at a dinosaur and became the dinosaur. My mind was blown. I was like, I cannot wait. I got it day one and started streaming it. And man, any hour that I was not streaming, I wanted to be playing the game. It's so good. And since then, I like a lot of these games I've talked about being some of my favorite games of all time. I've played Mario Odyssey like 4 times to completion. And it's not been out as long as most of these other games. The music, Bowser is epic. There's a lot that you can do after you beat the game that I still haven't done, but like I think playing this game was the happiest I've ever been playing any game ever. Because a lot of games I play are pretty brutal, a lot of difficult shit like Hollow Knight and Isaac and Dark Souls later on or whatever. Mario Odyssey, just pure happiness. The movement alone. It's a fun game to play. I hope we get a Mario Odyssey 2. So my number one. Heard me talk about it before, probably a little too much. It's Cookie Clicker. You start off with this big cookie on the screen and you start clicking it and then you get more cookies. That's not my number one, I'm sorry. No, Tetris. I play a ton of Tetris. I played like 3 hours earlier today when I woke up. I'm addicted. I have a problem. You could say Tetris was the first indie game. My favorite version is NES Tetris. It's just Tetris at its core before they started doing a bunch of wacky things with the mechanics. It's one of the harder versions, but I think it's the most fair in terms of getting good at it and getting better at it. There's goalposts, which I appreciate. I don't know how many hours I've spent playing NES Tetris. I've spent plenty of time on phone versions, on little handhelds that you use AAA batteries for when I was a kid. I've played browser versions. I've played Puyo Puyo Tetris on the Switch and on PC. I finally played Tetris Effect and it's mind-blowing in its own right. Tetris 99, so many great versions. NES is still my favorite version, but I mean, you can't go wrong with just picking up some Tetris every once in a while. I like the competitive scene that's kind of been pulled up in the last 10 years. It's a lot of my games in the top 10 are very story driven or have some kind of like weird thing to them, a little experimental aspect. But I think at the end of the day, the reason I play games is because of a game like Tetris. It's just fun to play. It's a gameplay loop that I can get better at as time goes by. It just feels good to play. I could go the rest of my life just playing NES Tetris.